This episode is made possible by Affinity Solutions. Unlock your business's potential with actionable insights into consumer spending, powered by Affinity Solutions. With exclusive insights from over 140 million cards, Affinity Solutions showcases consumer purchase behavior with unprecedented clarity. Seize the opportunity to reshape your strategy with accuracy, execute with precision, and measure with confidence. Affinity Solutions equips you to outperform in today's competitive landscape. Step into the future of analytics with Affinity Solutions today. Hello, everyone, and thanks for hanging out with us for the Behind the Numbers Weekly Listen, an e-marketer podcast made possible by Affinity Solutions. This is the Friday show that is trying to figure out how to ask Stuart for a wardrobe budget without him throwing things. So it's a video podcast now, the Weekly Listen, and I have like 3 outfits. It's becoming a problem. It's already a problem. I'm already re-wearing something from the last time we did this. Stuart?
For anyone that can't see, he's pulling off the Zuckerberg look phenomenally.
Thank you. Just don't look down though. Oscar?
You know, I've had to think about that as well. I know. I'm gonna start I'm gonna run out of outfits as well. Wearing my favorite team's t-shirts.
Stuart, if you can get on that, we'd appreciate that. I'm your host, Marcus Johnson. Nice. In today's show, can technology help travel fully get back on its feet? Football with a side of online shopping? Will X go bankrupt next year? Is Jazz Plus a new era for post-cable sports? Happy birthday, ChatGPT. And why your passport is the color that it is. Join me for this episode. We have 3 people. Let's meet them. We start with our principal forecasting writer based out of New York City. It's Ethan Kramer Flood.
I am back with a slightly less bluish tint this time, I hope.
Yes. It's always a weird intro. One day you'll just be like, hey.
No.
Okay.
No. It's time to talk. You give me the mic, you might not get it back. You don't know.
We're also joined by one of our directors of forecasting based also in New York. It's Oscar Orozco.
That's right. Hello, everybody.
Finally, we're joined by someone else on the forecasting crew. We've got 3 of them today, and he is based in Colorado, one of our senior forecasting analysts. I forgot your name too. Is Zach Goldner.
That's it. Hey, Marcus. How you doing?
Hey, fella. I'm good, mate. I'm good, mate. Thanks for asking. So today's episode, what do you have in store? 3 segments, of course. We start with the story of the week. We're talking some travel. We then move to the game of the week, where our contestants try and win make-believe belt. We end with dinner party data. We'll talk about some random trivia. Let's start, of course, with the story of the week. Can technology help travel fully get back on its feet? Well, let's check in on travel to start with. How's it doing? Global tourism has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, according to data sourced from the International Monetary Fund's 2023 World Economic Report. So it's back. But a Visual Capitalist article by Pallavi Rayo notes that it varies by region. Europe is healthily above pre-pandemic levels. LATAM is just above its 2019 numbers. The US is right below its 2019 marker, and Asia is a little further behind that. So, gents, before we talk about technology helping to reinvigorate the travel space, what do we make of this rebound to date?
Well, travel is back, baby. I mean, I think I've been saying this, Zach. I mean, you have done a few of these on travel, a few podcasts, and I think we've been saying been back for the last 12 months or so, and I think there's absolutely no denying it. I think this new data shows that. The only thing, and it's highlighted in the report, is that Chinese travelers are not quite back there, and then that does have an impact across the globe, especially as we're seeing there with APAC. But there's no doubt that travel is back. In my opinion, the only thing that really can and maybe has slightly disrupted the rebound has been the global economy and financial constraints that people find themselves under. But for the most part here, we're talking about travel being back and booming.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar is not tooting his own horn or the horn of his team as much as he should, because the forecasters had this story down pat for a while now, at least in the U.S. context, where we had total travel sales blowing past 2019 levels in the U.S. back in 2022, actually, and total travelers, I think, blowing past 2019 levels this year. However, to be fair, we're now talking about international. So this is an interesting new data point to see if they're tracking cross-border tourist arrivals, I think, is how they, to really sort of assess whether travel's back on a global scale. And those numbers don't look quite as booming as the internal U.S. travel looked, which is what we were looking at. Still, though, for the most part, the news looks really good. And as you mentioned, the one place that it isn't so good in Asia can really come down to just the fact that China was closed for so long and they haven't gotten back. Those Chinese travelers haven't quite got back to form yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this return back to travel is extremely interesting because you still do see some economic factors that might have people hold back their spending, like the cost inflation across the world has really impacted people's wallets. So the cost of airline tickets, I would say the experience of travel itself hasn't gone much better, at least on airplanes. But what we have seen is that the economies themselves have been performing well. In the U.S. itself, American savings accounts have been growing. At least during COVID, they grew. People are able to save up. And during COVID, all people wanted to do is get out and think of what trip they could do next. And that's what we've seen these last 2 years. I've thought one of the biggest rebound stories has been with experiential traveling. People want to go to spots they see on Instagram. In the article, it talked about Southern Europe having a full rebound back. If you've seen the second season of The White Lotus, you realize everyone wants to go to the Four Seasons Resort Hotel. And that's where people are going right now.
And they saw some numbers that reflected that. The hotel bookings after that show came out, travel to that area as well, spiked as a result of that show. So a lot of people are paying attention to places that they've seen in shows and using that as holiday or vacation inspiration. It's interesting you mentioned, Zach, people want to get back out after the pandemic and travel again. And it seems a lot of people in the US, when their first port of call was home, was to go to see friends, family within the US. And now they're starting to broaden their horizons and get outside the US back to international travel that they had before. One reason Europe is out in front, Alison Sider of the Wall Street Journal was noting that it's because American travelers are favoring longer trips abroad, in a lot of instances, to Europe. The number of passengers on domestic flights fell 2% in July versus July 2019, July 2023 versus 19, while passengers on transatlantic flights grew 14%, according to Airlines for America. So it seems like they've done with the domestic travel and now starting to branch out.
Yeah, Spain was an absolute nightmare this summer. And I say that in a positive way because I loved every minute of it. But oh my God, it was just jam-packed.
But to those data points, though, you do the net impact, and it's still extremely positive, right? I mean, 2% drop is not a lot. And no. I think in 2021, one of the major stories was more of the domestic traveling. So it hasn't really fallen from there too much either. So it's just, I think it's just up and continues to be up across the board.
Yep. You mentioned travel spending up, travelers up, US travel industries, digital ad spend, so advertisers in travel also up, growing 14% this year, 17% next. Gents, let's finish the story of the week by talking about how technology can help travel get back on its feet completely. And if so, what kind of tech? A new study from MMGY Travel Intelligence asked folks which technologies they feel have the most potential to improve the travel experience in the next 5 years. Travelers and destination marketers differed in their responses. Travelers, let's take them first. Top 3 choices were Internet of Things, virtual assistants, and then a lot fewer people saying VR. Destination marketers were most enthusiastic about generative AI, and then to a lesser extent, virtual assistants and augmented reality. What are your thoughts on how technology can or is helping to improve the whole travel experience from start to finish?
I'm fully buying into, and by the way, I want to make clear, right now, tailwinds are so strong that it's not needed, like what we're saying, travel has been back. Technology doesn't need to save travel or anything like this. But if we're going to pick one tool, I mean, I have to say, generative AI's role and what that can play, and it's still playing out a bit, but we've seen how some of the OTAs, right, booking.com, and have been using it. So it's kind of its role in search when people are searching, whether it's for inspiration or ideas, or even truly the booking process, right, to kind of tailor that, because people are typically they'll look for a hotel, or a flight specifically, but that ability to tie all of this in to fit the individual traveler's schedule and their itinerary is some really, there's some real potential there for that. So I would have to pick that one
So to push back on that for a second, potential is the key word there, because there have been folks who have tried it and said that it is still hallucinating a lot. You are having to go through the itinerary and make sure that it is doing what you want it to, and too much technology could potentially ruin the experience. There was an article by Greg Wallace of Hotel Business saying the survey from MMGY Travel Intelligence showing that some people are wary of new technology because it makes things too complicated and could negatively impact the excitement of making travel plans, saying the travel planning stage is an important part of the process, and Gen AI could threaten to homogenize the experience. And so to your point, AI travel chatbots better may be suited for inspiration now, but as fast as they're developing, could very much be organizing the start to finish process for you, maybe in a few short years.
What I'd have to say about this is it's important not to overcomplicate things. You're going on a trip, you're trying to have fun. Don't don't robotize it, don't automate it. Do your own research. And that's what generative AI can be really helpful for. It's great for discovery, but similar to me using it as a dinner party data fact, you have to do your own fact checking. You don't take it straight for its word, and you do a little research on it. It can help you establish your own itinerary.
Bad moment,
but just like for a college essay, or once again a dinner party data fact, do some background knowledge before you say it out to everyone.
Yeah, but this is the point, right? You still can't trust these things. So I think the answer to the question about tech and travel is that it's going to make generative AI and AI in general is going to make the same kind of difference for travel as it is everywhere else, which is to say that marketers are going to use it and it's going to help them do their job. And then behind the scenes stuff, it's going to be helpful. But for the consumer facing part, it's still like a big question mark. I mean, you can't even rely on these things. So how is that going to change your experience? You can't even trust it, right? You got to do your own work. And to Zach's point, maybe you should do your own work. You're going to have a better time. But on behind the scenes, of course, this is going to make a huge difference. It already is on the marketing element.
I mean, it's version 1.0, guys. And so yes, I'm speaking from the perspective of looking into the future, right, and having that ability. And I think again, version 1.0. I think homogenizing travel, that's already been done. I mean, look at Travel Advisor, excuse me, or looking at Google for recommendations for everything. That's already kind of been done. I would also lastly say there are people who are overwhelmed by travel and by planning, and then some people don't travel because of that. And so I think for those types of new to be travelers, generative AI can play a pretty strong role in helping them feel comfortable.
It is early days. We're talking about ChatGPT. It started with version 3.5. 4 is out now to some folks, but not many. And then working on version 5 at the moment, apparently expected maybe to come out next year. Now, version 5 could stray into the realm of AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's when artificial intelligence can start to reason like a human, which is borderline terrifying, but also could be quite helpful for booking travel. We'll see. That's what we've got time for the story of the week. Let's move to the game of the week. Today's game, it's, of course, what's the point? Our contestants give us the main takeaway of the stories. Okay answers get 1 point, good answers get 2. And answers that give you the same feeling as being right. Oscar, I'll try and explain that feeling after the show. That feeling gets you 3 points. Each person gets 20 seconds to answer before they hear this. Don't run long, for crying out loud. First points wins. Let's start. We start with Ethan.
Don't believe him, everybody, by the way. I'm so used to that feeling, Marcus. Come on. Come on now.
No, it's not. Round 1. We start with Ethan. Football with a side of online shopping. American football, that is the title. This is the title of a recent piece by Joe Flint and Sebastian Herrera of the Wall Street Journal. The day after Thanksgiving, Amazon featured exclusive deals and shoppable QR codes during its broadcast of the first ever Black Friday NFL game to try and encourage folks to buy things. Ethan, football of the American variety with a side of online shopping. What's the what's the point? Is shopping a good side dish for football? I changed the game and then forgot that I changed it. Is shopping a good side dish for football?
You didn't present it right, so I'm not even going to answer. No, yeah, so this is a complicated one. It seems that football is a good side dish for advertisers and for Amazon and for some viewers. I'm not sure if shopping is a good side dish for football, though, if we reverse it the other way, because apparently the ratings were quite poor. It was a weirdly timed game. People aren't used to it. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, and they got, by some counts, half as many viewers as they thought they were going to have. So in one way of looking at this, it didn't work. On the other hand, people at Amazon and marketers are saying all the right things because I guess the shoppable media element of it maybe did work. So to some extent, depending on what chair you're sitting in, this was a successful experiment, and there's all sorts of optimism for the future. But if you're the NFL, if you're the football provider and you're looking at these bad ratings, you probably are a little bit nervous.
Yeah. They did
Marcus,
get half as many.
Next? Can I chime in right here?
You can go next. Yeah, real quick. They did get
Best
half as
for
many.
last.
They did. Okay, sure. Whatever helps you sleep at night. They did get half as many viewers. 10 million instead of 20, which I expected. Could have been because it was Jets versus Dolphins.
I didn't mention the Jets. I was like, I'm going to leave that for somebody else to mention.
I'll do it.
That's where I'm coming in right here. So I was going to remind anyone who wasn't aware, it was a Jets versus Dolphins game, off time hours. Yeah, it didn't perform well. If I was a Jets fan, I'd do whatever I could to take my mind off the game, or that's shopping or doing whatever. But it's a better alternative to watching that Jets offense. And if I was a Jets owner, I would have spent Black Friday shopping for a brand new quarterback.
Zach Wilson jokes. Rodgers might not.
We'll wait until Aaron Rodgers comes back, but I do believe it is a smart move for the NFL to go more towards shoppable media during the game. And this Black Friday game was a great experiment, and the NFL is only going to will improve by testing out its output. Beforehand, it only had Monday night football games. If we were to look at the NFL slate now, it's got Thursday night football games. It's got the occasional Saturday night football game, and now it's got Friday night games as well, or Black Friday games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this just gives people an excuse to take a break from their family, and it's a great time for advertisers to put advertisement. It's a great time for retailers to get advertisements out in such a hot retail environment that weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does seem as though this new Black Friday game, expected to become a permanent fixture because, as Zach was pointing out, trying to create more of these standalone games like Monday night, Thursday night football, etc. Oscar.
So anecdotally, you know what I did on the Friday after Thanksgiving? I went out shopping for Black Friday.
Yeah,
I was
too.
out and about. There was a ton of people out shopping everywhere. So, maybe the NFL has to remember that people have been sort of stuck inside, obviously eating great food, but on Thursday, everyone's inside. They want to get out on Friday. So I think it's a good idea, but the game cannot be at 2-3 o'clock. It needs to be a night game, which will put them in competition with college football, but so be it. And I really do think they'll see viewership numbers rise if they try that next year.
That's exactly right. I would have watched the game if it was on at night, but it was the middle of the afternoon and I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
One other point to that is Amazon Thursday Night Football really underperformed last year in its inaugural season for Amazon hosting the games. So this year they perform better, and that's partially due to them having a better game slate. So my advice to the NFL is put two teams that are worth watching, and maybe you get better ratings.
Yeah, like Frisco versus the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, not whatever else they were trying to do with the schedule. The game's averaging 12 million viewers this season. That's up 26% year on year. but it's below the 16 million that Thursday Night Football averaged when it was on Fox and the NFL Network, according to Nielsen. So it is better than the first year that they broadcast it, Amazon's Thursday night package, but not as good as it used to be yet. We move to round two. We start with Zach. Then will X go bankrupt next year? A question asked by James Clayton of the BBC following a series of rough events for the company formerly known as Twitter. Short story, short history too. Advertisers paused spending on the platform after an investigation by non-profit Media Matters flagged ads appearing next to pro-Nazi posts. X challenged the report and launched a lawsuit against them. Then X's owner, Elon Musk, profanely attacked advertisers boycotting X whilst he was on stage during an interview, during a panel. Well, I think it was an interview. There was only two of them, not a panel. Can you have a panel of two?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on. Zach, will X go bankrupt next year?
Well, before we get into the bankruptcy, I just want to acknowledge that it's wild to me that Elon Musk considers himself a free speech aficionado and for X to be a beacon of free speech, yet he doesn't understand that advertising dollars are speech of its own and that company pulling their money is their own right, and he shouldn't call them bad words for taking their money away. We've seen that companies have been pulling their ad dollars, Apple, Walmart, Disney, and he's not just getting in a fight with the companies but the leaders themselves, and they have to know that that's bad practice. I want to quote our very own principal analyst Jasmine Enberg, who said in the same article that said, it doesn't take a social media expert to understand and to know that publicly and personally attacking advertisers and companies that pay X's bills is not going to be good for business. So I don't think that X is in a great place. I could see them going bankrupt, but I also don't imagine their operations shutting down. I think they'll find a way to continue to exist moving forward.
Yeah, not good for business, especially when advertising accounts for 90% of your business. Oscar.
Well, I mean, the question is, will X go bankrupt next year? I mean, I don't know if it'll be next year, but I would say the short answer is yes.
January
I think yes, exactly. Maybe 2026. I mean, he said it himself. He literally said, if the company fails, it will fail because of an advertiser boycott, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, there will still be brands, I'm thinking Twitter is very much known for app install ads, so like gaming apps and apps overall that will take advantage of these low CPMs to advertise on Twitter, sure. But it's not going in the right direction here. The user engagement's down, the user figures, it's just becoming a secondary platform, and it's all because of what Musk is doing and saying. It's not helping.
Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of doubt. Bankruptcy seems pretty dramatic, and that kind of thing doesn't actually happen very often, in particular if it comes down to it and he's facing a $45 billion debt that is never going to pay off, and then accrue such ill will from the entire financial community and every major bank. If all he has to do is just shut up, and they'll at least be like marginally sustainable after that. I think at some point he'll just shut up. And also there's tens of millions of people on there and they haven't gone away, and there's nowhere else for them to go. So you've got this cohort of, monetizable users that are not going to Threads. People like the cesspool. People, if you haven't left Twitter or X by now, you're probably never going to. Mm-hmm. And there isn't anywhere else that's attractive for those people to spend their time and get that same kind of experience. So those people are all still going to be there. There's going to be a way to extract some money from it. And they're going to have to just keep going because of that debt.
Just wait until Trump gets on his presidential tweeting rants upcoming year. You might have some more people.
People will be there, right?
It's got a lot of followers.
I think more people are going to come to that than leave because of that.
There's some degradation. There's some loss in user numbers and things that aren't looking great on the peripheries. So, not quite as optimistic as you guys, but
it's amazing how strong a brand it is given everything that's happened. Yeah. I mean, the fact that you can say that into advertisers and not every advertiser went running for the hills, it just speaks to just how powerful this brand really is. Oscar, you talked about maybe not bankrupt next year, maybe 2025, 2026. We'll see. The clock's ticking on loan repayments. Mr. Musk took out $13 billion in loans to buy Twitter, and Reuters reporting the company now has to pay about $1.2 billion in interest payments per year. Thought your student loans were bad. Halfway mark. Zach, It's too much money. You shouldn't have to pay that much for school. Zach, you're on 5 points. Oscar and Ethan tied on 4. Let's move to round 3. Is Jazz Plus a new era for post-cable sports? Our Jeremy Goldman was writing that the NBA's Utah Jazz have forged a new path in sports broadcasting by transitioning to airing games on the local station KJZZ. Is that right? Zach, you're local.
Is it
K-Jazz? We're just going to change the name. If they're not, then it should be on your local
so
station.
It can be on
K-Jazz.
over-the-air TV.
Okay. Let's call it K-Jazz. They should rebrand.
K-Jazz.
And via a new streaming service, Jazz Plus. So via local station K-Jazz and via a new streaming service, Jazz Plus, after its regional sports network partner, AT&T Sportsnet, closed, reported by Bloomberg. The question is, for Oscar first, is Jazz Plus a new era for post-cable sports?
I wouldn't go as far as saying that yet, but I do have to tip my hat to the Jazz for trying this. In reality, it's a move they're making because, well, there are no better options, really. And I mean, it's being done entirely to connect with the fan base here and placate them. And I think that's great. That's honorable, right? Imagine an app, that you can access 24/7 and consume content about your favorite team. It's incredibly exciting, but let's not kid ourselves here. They are not going to make any money on this. And I really think it's going to be unprofitable. I've personally seen this model being attempted in European football, and it has not very much had any success, really. So I applaud them. They're trailblazers. I hope it works, but, we'll see.
We're the Jazz, and we're not the Trailblazers, Oscar. Just want to say that.
Oh, my God. That's the second terrible pun.
And
today.
we just beat
we
the
cut
Trailblazers
that out
too,
completely,
so.
Stuart? And Lance, let's cut that whole bit out from Zach. We can't have 2 terrible jokes. Ethan, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a new era because it has to be, right? I mean, I think Oscar kind of covered it. Like, something's going to have to happen, and this seems like the right way to start the experiment. It's good news that everyone in Utah who has traditional TV will still be able to see all the games. I think this is the solution that everyone is hoping for, where consumers have options and you can do whatever it is that is going to work for you. The problem, of course, is the price point on the streaming service itself, which is absolutely outrageous, something like $120 a year or $15 a month. I'm not sure why you would sign up for a Jazz streaming service for the entire year, since they only play basketball for 6 months out of the year. I don't know how they're selling this, but even $15 a month, I mean, when you compare that to an entire cable package, none of this adds up. But yeah, they're trying, and probably every team in both, in not just in basketball, but also in baseball and maybe hockey, they're going to end up trying these kinds of things anyway. So let's get it rolling and see what happens.
Zach.
We get a quick fact check. What is a normal cable package monthly? I'm curious on that.
Oscar's the only person.
I have
America.
Hey, I have some news on that, guys. We'll take that off,
If you
off
cut
the air
the
later,
cord
but
and have brought down linear TV,
it would be me who would cause that. Well, on average, I think it comes out, and this is just the cable portion, right? We're talking $70, right?
Yeah, I was going to say 75, I think.
Yeah, 75. Yeah. It can go up.
So off that $75 mark, I'm going to refute Ethan's point of him saying that $15 a month is too much. Because let's just say you want to watch the Jazz and maybe you want to watch some cute dogs online. You don't need to pay for a full cable package. I brought this up. I brought the Jazz Plus product up a few weeks ago in a weekly listen episode. So yes, it is a big deal. And thank you, Marcus, for listening to me. The Jazz aren't alone in abandoning the traditional distribution model. And I think you've seen it in some other markets too. The Suns are also broadcasting their games over the air through terrestrial TV to broaden the base of their audience. If you look at the Jazz, by them going to this model, they're going to be able to expand their market to Idaho and to Southern Washington as well. And that's just with the over the air. If you are a Jazz fan living in Colorado like myself, I'd be able to tune into the Jazz Plus, still be able to watch my team and pay for them. And by them growing their user or their fan base, they are going to be growing their merchandise and hopefully ticket sales. One other thing about the Utah Jazz, and I am pretty prideful of my team, even though we aren't very good. is Utah has one of
Understatement.
the youngest and fastest growing demographics in the country. So this is a shift by going away and kind of adopting towards the digital model that resonates with the people that the team is serving. So I applaud the Jazz and the move that they're taking. I think it'll be good for them in the long term.
Great answer.
Too bad
You
the
went
players aren't the youngest and the fastest
hideously
growing.
long on your answer. -2 for Zach. But a good answer, +2. So you end up with 0 for the round, but a very good answer. Yeah, luckily, Jazz won't have to worry too much about all of this because no one's watching. They're 7 and 13, crying out loud. How many Americans watch live sports digitally? That's a lot of folks. 96 million this year, adding 30 million in the next 4 years. So by 2027, a third of folks watching live sports digitally, just not the Jazz. We move to round 4. Ethan goes first for double points. Round 4. Ethan and Oscar are tied on 6. Zach just behind on 5. Round 4. Happy birthday. ChatGPT just turned 1. As David Pierce of The Verge writes, OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT, didn't mean to kickstart a generational shift in tech, but it did. He points to a handful of before and after moments in modern tech. Everything was one way, and then it was suddenly obvious it would never be like that again. Netscape showing the world the internet, Facebook making the internet personal, the iPhone defining the mobile era, the dating app movement, Netflix streaming movies, and ChatGPT. But Ethan, where do you expect ChatGPT to be by its second birthday?
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that things are not going to be as different a year from now as many folks might think, especially given how this is in the news every single day. And it seems like there's new models and new functionality and new announcements and new competitors all the time. It's true that we are in a new era. It's true that this was a massive pivot point in history. I don't mind the comparison to the smartphone and the internet and all this other stuff. But what we see in the ebb and flow of history, sometimes, you get a whole bunch of change all at once and you have this massive inflection point, and it is very dramatic. And when you're in the midst of it, it feels in the aftermath as if everything is just swirling and going crazy. But in reality, things tend to slow down. And we're already seeing that with a lot of delayed announcements, a lot more caution, a lot more questions about, actually making money and what's working and what's not working. So we're going to, in the middle of it, we're going to continue to see lots and lots of headlines all the time. We're going to be talking about this constantly. But when we're sitting here a year from now, looking back, or particularly maybe even 5 years from now, some of the change will seem like it was a whole lot right at that one moment, and then things start to become a little bit more gradual as all of these players start to focus a little more on making it actually work.
That was a legitimate 5-minute answer. +4 for Ethan for the answer, -2 for the penalty. Leaves them on 8. Zach.
Okay, guess I have a long way to go. Well,
you really do.
College and high school students should rejoice. They should buy Sam Altman a nice gift or a beer and say thank you. My colleague the other day sent over a really interesting call out, which showed ChatGPT's usage over the last couple of years, and how right as when the spring semester ended, the usage completely plummeted. However, when the fall semester begins again, ChatGPT usage would go up again. So I think that says a lot of people using ChatGPT are high school and college students. But I think that Ethan is being a little ignorant right there. It is really a technology that's going to continue to grow. It is unstoppable at the moment. You say that it's 2 years old. They tried to fire their CEO and they couldn't. They were bullied to hiring him back. There's a reason why it's talked about in every podcast we do and every article out there, because it's a movement and it's a technology that's really going to take our country and our world by storm.
Wow.
Well, speaking on behalf of the world all of a sudden. Okay. Emperor Zach. Oscar.
Man, hard to talk after that one. I think I might fall sort of in the middle of my two colleagues here. It's something that's going to continue to seep in slowly into everything that we do, and I think we're seeing that a little bit with anything technology related. And there's no doubt about that. There's no going back here. This isn't going away. This is no, a metaverse or anything that we've heard about in the past that hasn't really come to fruition. But I that too. But what I would say, I looked into this a little bit. There was a Salesforce study where they spoke to full-time workers and asked them about, generative AI and ChatGPT. And I think these responses show what's really happening right now. 88% of them are unclear about how generative AI will impact their life into the future. 88%. That's the majority of people. 64% would use it more if they thought it was more safe and secure. And if it was more integrated into technology, they would use it. 45% of people responded to that one. So there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of question marks about it. And you have to get the full buy-in from consumers, from people, before it really, really is as far along as Zach is suggesting it will be soon.
So good answer. Me and Stuart, who runs the team, were thinking, what can we get? What can we possibly get the guests on Behind the Numbers, especially the weekly listen for Christmas? Like, well, we're going to get them for the holidays as a gift. A stopwatch, apparently. Gents, my goodness. Oscar, great answer, but you were also around long. So
not as much as the other guys, though.
Not as much as the other guys, and that's why you win this week's winner.
Yes.
Winner of the game of the week. Oscar got 10 points. Zach got 9. Ethan got 8. Oscar's last answer was a 6. -2 takes him down to the 4, but he overtakes to get the win for this week. Congratulations to you, my friends. You get the championship belt and the last word.
I appreciate the transparency on how you counted the points there, but this is a big W for me. You know why? Quickly, I know. Let me get to it. I'm sorry for the non-football fans here, but I really briefly wanted to talk about Purdy. Purdy is a real MVP candidate.
Move to the last segment, dinner party data. As fast as possible.
Let me just make a case for him. Real MVP candidate. He is not just the game manager for the Niners. You're going to see. I think the Niners are winning it all this year. And this guy, Brock Purdy, has a real shot of being the MVP this year.
He's not the best player on his own team. What are we doing?
System quarterback.
see, keep hearing this, guys.
Graphic. It's Jalen Hurts against Christian McCaffrey.
It's not true. It's not true. But you'll see.
Time will put you guys. Winner. Anyone but Oscar can win the game.
I was waiting for this moment.
Horrible take.
Thank you, Marcus.
My God.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
here's my championship hat.
Take the hat.
Thank you very much.
Take the championship out.
Championship.
You didn't really win.
Yikes! I know.
Nor did you influence the content for this show. Okay, it just happened to be an article that we picked up on. Okay.
It was me and Brock Purdy. Just saying.
God, we can't have that. Anyway, let's move to the dinner party data, for crying out loud. It's the part of the show where we tell you about the most interesting thing we've learned this week. We have to start with Oscar.
It's the best way to start. Come on. Yes, it is. I always bring the interesting stats, listeners. I know you're familiar by now, but I have a horrifying one for you guys today. Unfortunately, it's according to a recent report from the Department of Agriculture, and it found millions of more Americans didn't have enough to eat in 2022 when compared to 2021, representing the largest increase in food insecurity and hunger nationwide in more than a decade. Not great. So there was a survey from Gallup. They surveyed 9,000 households about better understanding the state of food waste across the nation, because it's a major issue, not just that could help with food insecurity if we were to fix that in some way, but it has an impact on the environment as well. So couple stats for you guys about food waste, how much there is. The price of food...
40%? Oh, sorry.
No. I actually don't have stats on like volume.
I think the volume is 30 to 40% according to the FDA in the US.
30 to 40, great. I mean,
yeah,
please.
Which, if you look at your plate when you finished eating, at least oftentimes for me, because the portions are so bloody big, it's about a third just hanging out on the plate left to consume. Just cook less.
Cook less, exactly.
We'll have to be there.
Well, that's a huge one. No, that is great. Actually, that's better than anything I have from the survey. But yes, that is a lot of food. I mean, the price of food is a primary food-related concern for 81% of households. So the price of it. But only 33% are aware that the average household could save at least $1,500 per year by eliminating food waste. $1,500 per year. That's a lot of money. Protein represents 10% of waste. It's the most expensive thing and environmentally impactful food category. And, just another one. Much of the food that we're throwing out is actually fully safe and edible. You have to keep that in mind when you look at these arbitrary dates on the packages and things like that. So, keep that in mind. Now, one last thing. What we can do? What's the number one thing that the study found that can be done to help with this problem, everybody? Anyone want to guess quickly? What can we do about it? Aside from eat everything on your plate. It's a tough one.
Oof.
Sing.
Yeah, I'll just go with what it is. Make a list each week of what needs to be used up when you're planning your meals and when you're shopping, and plan your upcoming meals around that. So you buy just exactly what you need. Shouldn't be so hard. Be organized.
How's there not
Leave
an
a little
app
bit of
for
time
that?
for
Like
that.
if you could scan all the products you buy with your phone, and then as their sell-by dates are coming up or expiry dates, they would like send you a notification being like, "Oh, that chicken's gonna go bad in like 2 days. Want to cook that tonight?"
That would be a great idea. I mean, and I think that, you could be even more organized with just buying once a week, not shopping in huge amounts of bulk, but planning a little bit more. And I think it's worth it. So really interesting.
Yeah, interesting. And we always appreciate sobering facts for dinner party data. So thank you for bringing that. Zach, for the love of God, take that hat off, please.
Didn't even know.
Can do. I was called the champion, so I'm keeping it on.
Oh my!
This is what you get for putting us on video. All of a sudden there's props.
I told you it was a bad idea, Stuart. Zach, reluctantly, you're next.
Yeah, well, my fact won't be as sombering as Oscar's. So I looked at a poll of animals that Americans thought they could beat in a open-handed fight.
Gosh. That was quite.
And 6% of Americans believe that they could beat a grizzly bear in unarmed combat. I'd like to see who those Americans are, but yeah, just keep that in mind for
6%.
America. You're telling Americans that they should food prep, yet 6% of them think they could beat a grizzly.
That's a good point. Zach.
So
do you have any other one?
Shocking, on the other side of it, beating out all other animals, 28% of Americans don't think that they could beat a rat in unarmed combat. And then one other statistic too is that 39% of Americans think they would lose to a goose. Yeah,
I'm one of those.
Yeah, me too.
Goose.
Those are scary.
Yeah,
don't
they hiss?
They do.
Geese are tougher than rats. I mean, but the thing with the rat fight is that if you just run away at the beginning of the fight, then the rat wins. Which I think is what most people.
Yeah, I think so. True. I have a very good friend who swears that black bears are really just large dogs. So I think he would say he could.
Did your friend fill out this survey?
I think he would have. He might be one of those 6%.
Have you seen their noses? They're so boopable.
No, it is.
Not cartoon bears, Zach. Real bears. Very nice, very nice. Ethan, you're up, mate.
So I watched a legendary, remarkable work of art this weekend called
Our video
Muppet.
podcast from last week.
Oh yes, anything with Marcus on it. Called A Muppet Christmas Carol, which I hope all of you have seen.
There we are.
This is a generational, miraculous, spectacular film available now on Disney Plus, featuring Academy Award level performances from both Michael Caine and Gonzo. So I was and Rizzo the Rat. I should shout out also. Really just incredible performances.
Some of those
so I was poking around online after seeing this incredible movie that I somehow had not seen yet, and ended up on the Christmas Carol Wikipedia page. And my data point for today that I found out was how many times has A Christmas Carol, the novel itself from Dickens, been turned into a film? Since that's essentially what that was. We're not counting all of the TV shows and adaptations and stuff like that, but just feature films. How many times has Christmas
29.
Carol come out? I've heard all of your numbers, and I'm telling you right now, it's higher than all those.
What?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
38.
So 22 22. I know you said a number bigger than 22, but 22
Said a lot of numbers.
live action films from the Christmas Carol. Now they're not all called Christmas Carol, right? But all the adaptations, all the ways in which it has been turned into a movie. 22 live action films and 11 more feature animated films. 33 times A Christmas Carol has been turned into a movie. And this, I think, is only, as far as I can tell, is only counting like the English language world. So it's possible the number is even higher than that. Although I imagine it's mostly English
I don't
language.
hate that. You know, Fast and Furious 10 didn't need it. Anything past 2 didn't need them. This, I don't hate that.
33. Of course, it's the same story over and over again.
Not enough, if anything.
You know, the Scrooge is widely regarded as not to be confused with Scrooged, the legendary Bill Murray comedy from the 80s, which is also on the list, of course. But Scrooge, the original from the 1950s, is widely regarded as sort of the best one. Although Muppet Christmas Carol, come on.
That's the closest.
That's a great one. Yeah.
What 6 or 7 of these are actually like from before 1920. So you got a bunch of sort of small things that they were making in the black and white silent film era. And then there's recent ones. There was something called Spirited, came out just last year with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds. I don't even know what that is. But there's been a bunch of different kinds of adaptations and everything else. 33 times. I would not have gotten that right either.
No.
32 too many.
Don't do that.
Dude, you got to watch Muppet Christmas Carol. It's amazing.
Family show.
Michael Caine goes so hard in that movie.
All right, I got one for you real quick. Why your passport is the color it is. So Melanie Lieberman of Travel and Leisure explains that while geography, politics, and even religion come into play when a country selects its passport cover, there are no guidelines or regulations dictating the color of these national documents, which is quite surprising then that all passports fall into one of 4 color categories. Most are blue, 84. 68 are some shade of red, 40 countries use green, and 7 use black, which is really cool. And I'm trying to become a national of one of those countries.
What country? Yeah, do you know?
So black, I don't have the full list here. Angola, Malawi, New Zealand. They have black, consider black, in their national colors. And they say that they tend to kind of like last longer because they don't get as dirty and look more official. So much more baller than the ones I have. Blue is the most, though, folks, like the US, countries like the US, and a lot of the Americas have blue passports. The US passport only became navy blue in 1976. To match the shade on the American flag. Passport Index co-founder Prant Bogosian says, we believe the first travel documents in the US were red. Green passports were used in the 1930s, followed by burgundy ones, and then black passports in the 1970s. So it seems like the US has cycled through a bunch of colors. Burgundy passports are used by members of the EU, countries interested in joining, and a few other countries. And then green, most Islamic states use green passports because of the importance of the color in their religion. The most powerful passport, though, last stat, the most powerful passport in the world, the one that gets you the access to the most countries, is what?
The Vatican.
Singapore.
The Virgin Island, some islands.
Some islands is not a country. Ethan is spot on. It's Singapore, 192. An incredibly close second with 190. Germany, Italy, and Oscar, Spain. Yep. And then there's Japan, Austria, Finland, France, Luxembourg, South Korea, and Sweden are joint next with 189. So they're all very high. The UK 188, the US 184.
Marcus, I think those first 2 countries you put out were very much islands. Singapore,
Germany?
Japan. Oh,
okay.
I vote for every country having a slightly different color. You know, like kind of like a rainbow. That'd be cool.
They can pick anything, but we just it's like
but not the same
car
exact
colors. We can pick any color we want, but we just pick it's 4 apparently account for like 95% of our car colors.
Man, I was gonna bring that stat in for next time. Why'd you bring that up?
The car one again? You bring it every week, okay? You gotta get some new material. That's all we got time for this episode. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you to Oscar.
Thanks for having me, Marcus.
This week's official champion of the week. Thank you to Zach.
Thank you. Thank
this
you.
week's unofficial champion. Please destroy the hat. Thank you to
Zach's-
Ethan.
Zach's got to bring the herd in, so we got to get out of here, guys. Happy holidays.
Thank you so much to Victoria, who edits the show, James, who copy edits it, Stuart, who runs the team, Sophie, who does our social media. Thanks to everyone for listening in. You head to Instagram if you want to hang out with us there for behind the scenes content. All that stuff's there. Insider Intelligence, one word, is where we live. We'll see you guys hopefully on Monday for the Behind the Numbers Daily, an e-marketer podcast made possible by Affinity Solutions. Happy weekends.